Miles Morales' Spidey sense will be tingling as he finally travels across the Spider-Verse with the new sequel of the animated trilogy to be. There will be a lot of changes along the way, as it should be. Gwen will have to take more responsibility this time around, as well as the entire Spider-Verse, because a lot more is on the line now, especially with the possibility of Marvel Studios becoming part in all things.
My name is Miles Morales. I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and for like 2 days, I've been the one and only Spider-Man.
Recap. One of the biggest news that came shortly before probably the most anticipated movie of 2021, Spider-Man No Way Home, has to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which will be a direct sequel to 2018's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, with Miles Morales leading the charge once again, and the movie releasing in October 2022. Before we go any further, we should mention that there will be spoilers up ahead from the Spider-Man No Way Home movie. And with that out of the way, let us continue. Which brings us to today's world, in which the latest live-action adaptation Spider-Man movie from Marvel already out there. A movie that left us wondering about so many things, especially because now we have 3 Spider-Mans in the MCU, with both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield making their debut in the movie. Miles Morales was probably one of the most unfamiliar faces to many people when the first animated movie came out. However, as time went by, more and more people from around the globe became fans of the new Spider-Man that hit the screens. This big news about a sequel was unveiled at the Comic-Con experience in Brazil 2021, where a glimpse was given to all of us about the second movie, which was then followed by a teaser trailer. The trailer opens up with Miles and Gwen having an awkward but cute conversation after the two meet.
Miles! You got a minute?
Oh! What?
When Gwen Stacy materializes from her reality into Miles' messy room, after which the two get blasted into a realm of the highly illustrated universe when all kinds of things are happening around the two. We should not give you the whole recap of the teaser. You should take a look at it for yourself, right? From what we have seen, we will tell you that we are not quite sure as to which characters we will be seeing in the movie, but we do have a clue about one of the big ones, Spider-Man 2099. There will be a lot of talk about when the movie comes out. As for now, we will stick to the basics and talk about many of the things that the movie might bring with itself. A lot of changes surrounding Miles Morales, but also what the movie would mean for him moving forward, as we came to know that even this series will be a trilogy, judging by the title being written as part 1 of the entire story we will be witnesses to, just like almost every other Spider-Man project so far. Older Miles Morales.
Want to get out of here?
I'm grounded.
Bummer.
There are a lot of hints and details in the trailer, which we will leave for all of you to find and make a connection to. But the elephant in the room has to be the older Miles Morales we are seeing in the trailer. Right from the first scenes, we can see a much older Miles Morales. He is not a kid anymore, but we can see that he keeps his room quite messy, which suits his jumpy and colorful character. His growth can be noticed by his interest in dating, drawing different picture types of Gwen in his spare time. The next big thing we can witness is that Gwen Stacy, simply by her early appearance in the trailer, that she is going to have a much bigger part in the sequel when compared to the first movie. We mentioned Spider-Man 2099. While we know that he is going to be a part of the movie in a big way, we don't know exactly what their feud is all about. One thing is for sure, Miles Morales will have a lot on his hands. Gwen will be there to help him during their adventures. All the while, fans enjoy the movie, as it will for sure showcase a lot of fan-favorite characters, with them finally making an on-screen debut. A bright future. A lot has been going on in the last couple of weeks. Many Spider-Man personas having to make all kinds of sacrifices and tough decisions, all for a brighter tomorrow, which we think will also be the case with our boy Miles Morales, simply because of the sequel being only the first part of things. This means that Sony already has plans for another movie after this one, and if nothing else is certain by now, we can rest assured that his place in the franchise is set for at least one more movie after this sequel, which is always a good thing to hear. This should come as no surprise after the success of the first movie, which still remains as one of the most highly praised Spider-Man movies. The interest Miles Morales' story is getting is probably what makes the character very well accepted by the entire world. Not just the fans, but the critics as well. With all that being said, one thing we are bothered about is whether or not Marvel Studios will get involved in the character, a question that is bigger than you might think. Because if Marvel Studios does decide to meddle with the character, we might even see Miles Morales joining the MCU. But more on that a bit later. We should also add, before any confusion comes to mind, Doctor Strange is well aware of the multiverse as well. So him tearing it open in the Spider-Man No Way Home movie is just an invitation of itself. The Spider-Verse. Yes, we are aware that all the MCU movies and shows get far more attention than any of the other unconnected projects outside of the Marvel property. And even though Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has nothing to do with Sony's Marvel movies, like what the case is with Venom or Morbius, the movie itself has the potential to be one of the best superhero movies of the last decade. The first movie won an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, which proved that Sony finally had a certified comic book hit on its hands without any help from Marvel Studios. And yes, that is a good thing, but we are sure that many of you think that if Marvel Studios somehow decide to have some kind of say in all of it, the entire movie, or solely the character, would have an even greater following moving forward, right? Well, this is just the thing we think will be the biggest game changer about the sequel. That is, if Marvel steps in, which also brings the question of not if, but when will Miles Morales join the MCU? Miles Morales in the MCU. To get your mind off things, yes, of course, there is the possibility of Miles Morales eventually joining the MCU and meeting the Avengers, or what is left of them. There was even an Easter egg appointed to Miles in Spider-Man Homecoming, when Peter Parker met with Miles' uncle, and him saying that he has a nephew named, you guessed it, Miles. Spider-Man producer Amy Pascal was also excited to share some insight into all of it. When asked whether Miles could show up in the MCU, she replied that the Easter egg was put there on purpose, and while there is nothing of the sort right now planned, we might never know. Anything can happen, especially now with the multiverse of the MCU wide open. And this is nothing to be scoffed at, since there is also another Spider-Man trilogy already in development with Tom Holland as Peter Parker. Regardless of what Sony and Marvel Studios decide to do with the character, Miles is not going anywhere as of yet. The only thing that could change for him is maybe butting heads with yet another version of himself. Maybe Tom Holland Spider-Man? Who knows? We will just have to wait and see how things will turn out. On a related note, tell us down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on the first movie and the first glimpse from the teaser about the sequel? What were the interesting things you saw in it? And just what kind of a cliffhanger are you expecting to see by the end of things, considering the sequel will only be the first part of all things? And also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you would like to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.